involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters for about 15 years now. I feel like that kind of shows my age a little bit. But I started out as an employee, so I was the one who got to go and help get the volunteers and make the matches, and that was really, really great to see. But then I left Big Brothers Big Sisters as an employee to go on and get my teaching license because I felt called to be a teacher, but continued to be involved by way of being on our advisory council in Jennings County, and I currently also serve on our executive board, which oversees Jackson, Jennings, and Scott County. So it's a great organization, and I can't see myself not being involved. So about, I don't know how long ago was that? Maybe 4 years ago? 5. Okay. I got Sherry involved, so she can tell you about that. Oh yeah, and I've also been a big, so I've been an employee, I've been on the advisory council, and I've also been a big sister. So I've kind of been through all different facets with the organization. I've actually been a big sister twice. My first match lasted about 5 years, and she actually aged out. She was 18, and even though she wasn't we weren't technically in the program anymore because she had gotten older, we still continued to see each other. And she's married now, and I don't talk to her much anymore, but it was a great experience for her and a great experience for me. My other match only lasted about a year because she moved out of town. So
I got involved because we used to just do the bowling thing, so I was not a part of the council. I didn't really understand what they did. We went and bowled because, one, it was a good time, and two, it was a good cause. And Emily kind of started talking to me about it, and it's kind of one of those weird things. Casey and I go on a trip with the Jackson Jennings Co-op every year, and somebody who works for the co-op, their wife was the director at the time, and I sat down at a table with her one night on that trip, and we sat there and talked about it for a long time, and kind of after that she got the ball rolling and talked to Emily more about it, and they invited me to their Christmas party. They have a Christmas party every year for the bigs and littles, and I went to that, and that's kind of what got me into it, because it was so cool to see these kids so excited, and the interaction, their bigs, the interaction with them was just amazing. These kids really need this. They need these mentors in their lives. And one story I remember, I don't remember what match it was, and I don't remember the exact story, but I just thought it was so cool that the child needed dental work. And of course we know dental work can get kind of expensive. And I remember that the big had helped pay for that child. And I just thought that was so wonderful, because without that big, that child probably wouldn't have been able to afford that dental work. So we want to start out with just giving you an overview of the community-based programs that we have. We're not asking all of you, we're not trying to push you to get involved. There's so many different ways you can contribute. I mean, you don't even have to come and do anything. There's the Bowl for Kids' Sake coming up. If you don't like the bowl, if you don't want to do it, but you want to contribute in some way, there's a ton of teams here. You can just give them $5, give them $1. I mean, just that helps them raise money to put their team in the Bowl for Kids' Sake. So I'm going to have Emily talk about the community-based program and also about what we do first.
Well, here in Jennings County, we have the community-based program, which means you are matched if you choose to volunteer and be a big brother or big sister, or even a couples match. You could do it together if you're husband and wife and you want to take turns. You could do it together as a couples match. Nikki Cardinal is our program coordinator here in Jennings County, and she is the one that will, if you choose to show an interest in volunteering, she will come and visit your home. She'll do a home visit. She will interview you and get to know you, and the same is done with the littles. They go through a home visit. They go through an interview process. Volunteers have to have background checks. I mean, it's a pretty extensive process because we're matching you with a child. So we want to know as much about you as possible. We want it to be a match that's going to be something that everyone's going to get along, and they look at interests and things like that. When I was matched with my little sister, they looked to see like what she was interested in, what I was interested in, to make the best match. So Nikki's the one that does that. She's our staff, and she does all of the, like I said, the matching. But, you know, there's really no specific time commitment. It's basically what is agreed upon between the child and the parent and the volunteer. It could be, you know, you could see them once a week. You could see them a couple times a month. The important thing is that you're showing interest in them, and you're wanting to get involved and be supportive of them and what they're doing in their life. So once you go through the process and Nikki matches you, like I said, and then you agree upon the time, then it's basically up to you as to what the activities are that you choose to do. And then the program coordinator would stay in contact with you just to see how things are going, and they touch base with you about once a month for the first year, and then it's a little bit less after that just to make sure things are going smoothly for that first year. So that's pretty much it as to what happens for the community-based program. I think Sherry's going to talk a little bit about what we see once matches are made, the achievement and the things that the kids show once they're matched in the program.
One thing I want to mention is I never really understood the need for this program until I've seen a lot of the children out there. She's a teacher, she knows, she sees it. I've started working in the Greensboro school systems, and I see it in Decatur County too. There's a lot of children out there that need someone in their life that can guide them. The reason why we want to do this at church is because we love our church, and I know every person in here. I'm not asking every person to get involved, but I know there's a lot of people out there that can make a big difference in these children's lives. I kind of like statistics, so this talks about the achievements of it, and I'm going to kind of read it word for word because there's no really good way for me to compress it. It says, "At Big Brothers Big Sisters, we have tremendous confidence in our ability to impact children and put them on the right path. But it means even more when outside studies come to the same conclusion. National research studies were conducted in 1995 on Big Brothers Big Sisters community-based mentoring, and 2009 on its school-based mentoring. Both studies showed that children enrolled in Big Brothers Big Sisters programs are more likely to improve in school and in their relationships with family and friends, have greater confidence and higher aspirations, and are less likely to use drugs or alcohol." I printed off a few brochures if you are interested to read. There's more statistics in there. We also have a little sheet here, and on the sheet are a couple of quotes, I guess, from a couple of littles in Jennings County. And these are children that are involved in the program. One girl said, "Allie is an awesome big sister. She is always there for me when I need it. She gives me advice and talks to me when I need help with things." And then another little boy said, "I feel better about myself since I have been matched." And another thing they also do is every month Nikki tries to put together a group activity for all the bigs and littles. So I think it was ice skating last month. Ice skating, they do pumpkin patch in the fall, and the summer they have, did they have a pool party? They have a pool party. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff. So if you have any questions, come see us. I printed off some brochures that have a lot more in it. And like I said, if you don't, we have the council. We're both on the council. That's a meeting every other month, and then we do the bowling thing. So, yeah. Yeah, if you even want to volunteer to help with just Bowl for Kids' sake, we could obviously use the help. It's a lot of work. Or like I said, if you just like the cause and you want to give some money, there's a lot of teams going next Saturday here. So, is there anything else you wanted to say? Okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, I had them come up and do that because it goes along well with my sermon, is how are you making an effect? And my sermon today is called The Ripple Effect. I'm going to bring this forward a little bit so everybody can see what's going on today. Lovely visuals, because visuals help you remember something. And my thing with the ripple effect, before I start, is how are you affected today by what somebody has done thousands of years ago? And Jesus' effect on others hits us today. And it ties perfectly into what the big brothers and big sisters are doing. Listen, their ripples are touching others. And quite frankly, if we're not getting involved as church in the community and different things, then who is getting involved? I mean, what kind of example do we want these kids to see? And we have our chance to shine our light with the ripple effect. So, a little story. I love to go water sports, and boating is my favorite thing. And Lake Cumberland's one of my favorite places to be, and when I get to go, my mother is the best boat driver that I know, so she puts us out on tubes and lets it rip. And my favorite time to go boating is in the morning. And we get up early, and my mom wakes us up, and she says, "All right, let's go. The water is as smooth as silk," like it really is. And it's I got some water in a bowl, and it looks like that. And I love to go out there. It's freezing cold in the morning, even in the summer, when you put on a damp life jacket and you're getting out there. But then you skim across the water, and it's like going across glass. It's one of my favorite things. If you're like in a utopia moment, that's mine, okay? It's kind of odd, I know, but that's what I like. So I look at a water, and I'm like, as you know, if a boat goes through the water, even on a huge lake, there's ripples everywhere, and it's a mess. But that smooth feeling when they whip the tubes out and you get to go across the water is one of my favorite things. So I'm going to kind of compare that in our ripple effect. And I want to talk about today things we can get involved with in our community, in our children's lives, that's going to have an effect. And we want to do it because Jesus had an effect on us. And I'm like, well, God, what has an impact on the water? Right? And I thought about that for a long time. And then it doesn't matter if you're a solid, liquid, or gas, you're going to have an impact on the water, right? It doesn't say, you have to be, if this was the water, you don't have to be this huge rock that you drop in the water. It's not going to look good if I drop that in there anyways. So, but you don't have to be like this huge person. A lot of times we think to make a difference in our community and our kids' lives, to have this ripple effect, that we have to be some awesome, huge person in the community. False, right? Look at the people Jesus used to spread his message. It was all fishermen, farmers, tax collectors, peasants. He used the least of these. So he didn't use, the head Pharisee most of the time. Paul, you could argue, was high, and Jesus had to set him straight. But you don't have to be the huge rock. Sometimes it's okay to be the pebble, right? And we all know that a solid will make the water ripple. And when you drop a solid into the water, it's going to have the ripple effect. That's fine if you're just a small pebble. No big deal. If you think you're a nobody, you are always a someone, because the pastor's not the only one that lives in a glass house, just for the record. So, you could be the little rock, and you don't even know you're an effect. Or I was like, well, does liquid make an effect? And of course, if you drop just a little bit of, even a drop into the water, it has a ripple. So sometimes you're like, well, I'm not even solid in any way. How can I have effect on others? Maybe you'd be liquid. And I'm like, the air also has an effect, because if it's really windy, if we get up in the morning, it doesn't matter. If it's really windy, there's going to be waves everywhere, right? So I'm not going to plug in this fan. It's pretty nasty looking. It's been in our garage. But if you put some wind on the water, it also has a ripple effect, right? So my point is today, it doesn't matter who you are, what your skills are, what your age is. This is the most important one. You can have an effect on the next generation, right? And are we seeing how big of an effect that we have? Or are we taking it for granted, like, oh, I'm nobody, I don't even know that many kids. Well, there's opportunities to get to know kids, and more than likely you know kids, and they're in your family. So today I'm going to be talking about the ripple effect. And whether you're a solid, liquid, or gas, or whoever you think you are, if you're not even as big as that pebble, you make a difference in the community. And I love that God puts us all in different spots, different jobs, different towns, different places. I see some of you that don't even live anywhere close to here. And you have your chance to create your ripple, right? You're still getting affected by Jesus' ripples, even though Jesus isn't a ripple, by the way. He's a wave, and he crashes on us with his love, and I love that. He's more than a ripple. But his waves still continue on today, which I absolutely love. And what is our job to do? To extend the love and the grace to others in our community and the people around us, And I've talked to you the last few weeks, you don't deserve it, but we get to serve anyways. But no, if you ask how to pass it on, maybe, just maybe, that tugged on your heart, the big brothers and big sisters thing. Maybe you'll have just a few hours, a month to spend with somebody to invest time in. Kids are not that difficult, or teenagers. I've worked with them for quite a while now. You have to listen to them and take a little time. That's all they want, really. I mean, that's it. You don't have to be an elegant speaker. Sometimes they just want attention, believe it or not. I know none of you are like that either, but we just need attention to let the ripple keep going. And I'd love to see, godly people step up and be these mentors. But like I've said, it's got to all start in your heart, right? You can't just, think you're going to be a ripple if your heart's not right. So it starts in your heart and in your family and leading by example, but lo, the endless possibilities that God can do through us. And that's what I love about the whole ripple effect is we don't even see the ripples way down the line. I am thankful that people hundreds of years ago has invested in my family or my friends throughout the line, that their ripples are touching me today. And I don't even know who they are. Just like your ripples are going to touch other people that you won't know who they are. But it's awesome that even just a little bit of wind can make ripples in the water. But this verse, our main verse today, is about spending yourself. How are you going to spend yourself? I have not even heard this term before. How are you spending yourself? But Paul uses it in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 14 and 15. He says, "Now I'm coming to you for the third time, and I will not be a burden to you. I don't want what you have, I want you." And I love that, is I don't want what you have, I just want you. I think that's what God says to us all the time. After all, children don't provide for their parents. Here's what he says, "Rather, parents provide for their children. I will gladly spend myself and all I have for you, even though it seems the more I love you, the less you love me." That could be in our relationships, right? The more we love somebody, it seems like the less they love us. But Paul didn't care because he was gladly spending himself for the Corinthians. And I'm wondering today, what are we gladly spending ourselves for? Not necessarily our money or our time or whatever else, but ourself, like our deepest self. What are we spending that on? As Paul says, "I will gladly spend myself and all I have for you." Sounds familiar, right? It's kind of what Jesus did. He spent everything he had for us because he loves it. But it's for the next generation. And if you're older, I don't know what age you're going to put on older, that's up to you. If you're older, are you going to spend yourself on helping the next generation? Now, I know this is tough because the next generation, someone kind of makes you cringe sometimes with what they're doing and their shenanigans, let alone the generation below them. But are you willing to spend yourself to pass on the ripple, or are you just frustrated with the next generation? I have to ask myself this all the time. I don't even fit in my generation. I don't think like my generation. But I want to pass it on, and I want my ripple of Jesus to keep going through me. I don't want, when waves hit a brick wall or whatever, it stops and kind of goes back the other way. I want the ripples to keep going through me that Jesus started, because it's so important. Psalms 145 verse 4 says this, "Let each generation tell its children of your mighty acts. Let them proclaim your power." I think it's that simple sometimes for us, just to tell our children, or tell the children in the community, or the children in the church about God's mighty acts. It doesn't have to be about you, or how great you are as a liquid, solid, or gas, but how awesome God is. And then proclaim His power, right? And that's what they're talking about doing. Mentors, people, are helping these kids, are just going to be teaching them and spreading on the ripple. But the teenagers and the kids in this community alone need you. You don't have to look to another country. You don't have to look even to another city. You can look right around here, and I've got to see awesome things in the past few months of just teenagers and kids in this area that need you, right? You don't have to look very hard, but people need to see the light of Jesus coming through you, that ripple to keep going. Something they didn't mention in their speech about the big brothers, big sisters is their mission statement. It says, and this is good for us too, "Provide children facing adversity with strong and enduring, professionally supported, one-to-one relationships that can change their lives for the better forever." Isn't that what Jesus calls us to do? The one-on-one relationships, that we can spread our love to them, and they can change, and we can help, spread the light of Jesus and change their lives, not just for a couple years, forever. And I think that's what happens when you mentor someone. And you all know, because really, if we're honest with ourselves, we've all been mentored by someone. You don't go up to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm your mentor. Let me tell you this." That's not how it goes. But you have mentors, whether they've been proclaimed mentors or not, people that have been teaching you for a long time. So what are some ways, what are some programs in our areas that we could step up to be mentors for the younger ones? Right? 4-H. 4-H is pretty easy. 4-H is a great way to be a mentor to others. Church camp. Wow, have you been affected by the ripples of church camp? I know I have. A great way, to serve and make a difference to keep the ripples going. Good News Club. They're in there after school, and they're going to be starting here in another month, so I'm going to plug that in extra hard. If you'd like to help out with Good News Club, come see me. I'll get you hooked up at Scipio or in Ripley County, wherever you want to go. Because the ripples there are literally teaching kids about Jesus in the school system, which is absolutely amazing. Same way at church camp. You're literally teaching kids about Jesus. Big brothers and big sisters, you are in a different way. And you can add stuff in, whether they want you to or not. Sorry, I'm laying Sherry. But you can add stuff in about your faith, because being a mentor and spending time opens the door for them to know that you care, and they want to be like you in a way, because they know that you're caring for them and they really look up to you. Other things you can do to get involved, just be around kids. You can tutor, you can coach. Anything you can do in schools is a huge way to be around kids. And I guarantee you they're paying attention to those who invest in you. I can picture today very clearly the people who came to the basketball games. This is really silly. When I sat the bench all my years, the people who came and the same two older guys sat there every single game, and you knew they were going to be there. And every time I'd walk up to my dad and mom after the game, I'd pass by them and they'd say, keep your head up, or they'd say something positive. I don't even know the guys' names hardly, but they were kind of like a mentor because they were always there. You ask the kids today, who are always at your games? They see who's there, who's involved, who's at your programs, who cares about you. Teenagers notice that in a huge thing, in a huge way. But really, you don't have to go to school necessarily to be a mentor. Just be a mentor to the ones around you. If you are 90, you can be a mentor to someone who knows 80 or who's someone who's 10. It doesn't matter. It's okay to be a mentor to the ones around you, but we got to just do it. A good quote about mentoring I found, it talks about the heart of mentoring. It says, getting the most out of life isn't about how much you keep for yourself, but how much you pour into others. And this goes along well with our serving theme. It's because it's not how much we keep for ourselves, but how much are you going to pour into others? And I praise God for the people who's poured into me, so I can pour into others, so the ripples can keep going, even through a small little pebble. But what would our community look like if we would just invest in one person? If we could just make a difference and know that we care about them, that we're praying for them. Does that matter? Of course it matters. Ask people who are here today. You're here because somebody made a difference in your life. Maybe you'll have more than one. But sometimes maybe we just need to start with one. If you're like, well, who am I mentoring and who's mentoring me? Those are good questions, because I have mentors, more than one, and I have other people that I get to mentor. I get to meet with someone tonight, and probably some people today. Another quote says, if we will invest in the lives of a few at a time with the intent to reproduce and multiply, we will make ripples that will extend beyond our line of sight. And I love that, because it's all about investing in the lives of a few at a time. That's why Jesus had his disciples, so close to him. He didn't invest, 30 all at the same time. He invested in a few. Even though he's Jesus, he could have done that. But sometimes we just need to be there. What if you're struggling with how to be invested in the kids when you can't relate to them? Well, if you come to youth group on Wednesday night and bring some cookies and just stand there, I promise you will have a chance to mentor to some kids, right? And it's 1 hour. Bring them some food or just a hug or whatever it is, and you just stand there and just be there for kids and watch how much it matters. I'm like, we make things too complicated sometimes. It's not a hard issue to help out with youth or help out in your community. It's just the fact you have to be willing, to be a servant, to pour out what you have for others. And I love it. It doesn't stop with any age. There are a lot of people say, well, you relate better with the kids than I do. Everybody can relate if you're just there. I promise, in some way. I've loved being able to see the kids relate with others. But you don't have to be anyone special. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to connect with them in a certain way. But it sure is nice. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. And Timothy's someone that Paul would mentor over and over again. But 2 Timothy chapter 2, it says, Timothy, my dear son, be strong through the grace that God gives you in Christ Jesus. You have heard me teach things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. Here's the key part. Now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others. That's how the love of God and Jesus Christ has been spread through thousands of years, is because somebody didn't keep it to themselves. They were always spreading it on to others. Think about when you heard the name Jesus for the first time and really when it made a difference in your life. It's because someone else passed it on to you. You're just expanding the ripples. And I want to be someone who expands the ripples as much as I can. Not because it's something I have to do, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see positive change. There's people in here that I've been able to mentor throughout the years, and I praise God that they get to spend time worshiping God with me today. Right? And it's a huge deal. And I feel like I'm more of a pastor now than a youth pastor, but it doesn't stop with me being able to spread our ripples to others. You don't have to have a specific role. But maybe even gets deeper than this. And for some of you, maybe this is something God's laid on your heart. Maybe you've been called to foster a child, or maybe you've been called to adopt a child, to make a difference in that way. Colorado, the churches there made a huge push that no child would become even in the foster care system because they were going to adopt every child. And there are churches in Colorado that did that. They made a push saying, we're going to take care of the fatherless and the orphans. And they're doing that. I don't know what's in your heart. I don't know what's tugging at them. I don't feel like that's the call for us yet. But I'm finding ways to expand the ripples and be open. If God wants you to do something, He has so much more planned for you. You don't have to be someone special for God to work through you. Psalms chapter 68, verse 5 and 6 goes along with this, Father to the fatherless. It says, Father to the fatherless, defender of widows. This is God whose dwelling is holy. God places the lonely in families. He sets the prisoners free and gives them joy, but He makes the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. I love that. Father to the fatherless is God, and He places the lonely in families. Maybe He's calling you guys to place the lonely in one of your families, to bring them to church just to spread the light. And church is great, but so many conversations and mentoring and talks about Jesus happen outside these four walls. That's how we're spreading our ripples. James chapter 1, verse 27 puts it this way. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. Again, you're caring for the orphans and widows. This is something that Jesus calls us to do very clearly in His words. And a little thing, another way, is exchange students. We had Alice for a year, and it was tough at times, and Caitlin and I had no clue what we were really doing at the beginning. Probably still don't. But we got to invest in someone from another country in our house for a year. And again, I'm not pushing this. It isn't going to help me out in one way or another if you do this. Well, what an opportunity it is to invest in someone that lives in your house with you. And the good news is, if they get in trouble or they're really bad, you can send them back. Right? And unlike a real child, you can send them back. And you get to invest in them. And some awesome stories about this is one Easter Sunday, it was probably 2 years ago, at Hopewell they do the drama where they had the donkey come in and Jesus and everything. And an exchange student came up to me, and she wasn't a Christian afterwards, but she was coming to youth group, says, Mitch, I finally get who Jesus is now. I can see who He is. And if some family in our area didn't bring her into their house and take them into the community, she would maybe never know who that Jesus is. And she gets it now. But even better, I had a family, and she came to youth too, and we hung out with her. She was from Thailand, I believe, and she's a Buddhist. And she came up to us one day, and we got to know her. She wasn't in our house again, but we just kind of mentored her and ran into her. She goes, I need to do a painting for a school project. I need to know your favorite Bible verse. Now, this is a Buddhist asking me for my favorite Bible verse, and I just said, why don't you just pick one out for me? Right? And this is what she painted for me. As a Buddhist, coming to America, she paints Jesus. He says, let all that you do be done in love. It's awesome. That's a Buddhist for you. What? Somebody brought her into their family. And I guarantee you, as she was painting that, does she not know who Jesus is? Jesus is love. Right? And it's all around there for us all the time. Right? I praise God for what she's doing. I didn't even tell her to do it. She came to us and asked for our favorite Bible verse, and I just told her, pick one out. And that's how she's seen Christianity. Let all that you do be done in love. It's really not rocket science to be able to spread your ripples. I can have papers, and I can have quotes, and I can do all this, but it has nothing to do with that. It's your heart being willing to spread a ripple. So I don't care if you think, maybe you're not the big rock in society, and maybe you're not even a pebble, but maybe you're a little bit of wind. You can make a difference. And so today, I don't know if you're going to get involved in the Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I don't know if you're going to get involved in youth group or what you're going to get involved in. And I don't really care. I just want you to know that you affect other people. That you matter. And that since you felt the love of Jesus and his ripple, how are you going to spread to others? And I'm huge with the youth, but I'm also huge, with people, that are in 50s, 60s. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can use a mentor, and you can mentor others. And I'm huge on this. And I've talked to so many kids. I've seen foreign exchange students. I've seen regular kids feel love for the first time because someone cared. What can you do? John chapter 14, verse 12. I tell you the truth. Anyone who believes in me, this is Jesus talking, will do the same works I have done and even greater works because I'm going to be with the Father. So, what can you do today? It's my challenge for you. Because Jesus really does love every single person in here, just as much as the other one. No one's more special than the other. And you don't have to have courage. You don't have to be brave. You don't have to be someone special. You just have to be willing to serve and let your love and grace shine out to others in any sort of way. So I pray that God has tugged on your heart and motivated you to do whatever today. Something maybe you've been praying about that you needed some clarification. Maybe God's saying, go do it. It's time to be the church and to serve. And to know that there are people all around that are looking at us. They don't have to be a teenager. They can be at work, and they can be 70 years old. It doesn't matter who it is. They're looking at you as much as you're looking at me today. You live in that same glass house because you're at church and you proclaim to be a Christian. So how are we showing that love to others? But maybe it's today you're like, well, I've felt the ripples, but I've never said I want to be a ripple for you. Maybe it's time to give yourself to Christ today and say, listen, take all my, sins, my mess-ups, my weaknesses, and use them. Because that's what God does with us, We're all mess-ups, but God uses us in amazing ways if we give ourselves to him. So after I pray, if that's something you need to do, if there's something you need to know, maybe you need to come up and just touch the water and say, praise, thank you, God, for just being our God. Because I can make a ripple because you've affected me with your ripple. Whatever it is, whether it's giving your life to Christ for the first time or coming up and recommitting, whatever it is, I pray you do that today. Let's pray. God, just help us to do all things in love, like the Bible verse says. God, help us to praise you for the ripples that have affected us from other people. God, through your Son, that you've used other people to affect our lives.